My name is Bruce Banigan.
Bruce Banigan was a grocery clerk at Alpha Beta, now called Vaughn's. He served in the military for 20 years and was a pilot in the Marine Corps. During his service, he was a pilot of Marine One. He was stationed all over the world, but was mainly stationed in Southern California.
His crew consisted of another pilot, 3 machine gunners, and a crew chef.
I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to fly. The military was a great place to learn to fly, I thought, and it was. I wanted to, see the world and do some interesting things. So for me, it was a chance to, kind of get out of my hometown and go see the world. I flew a number of different helicopters. I flew the CH-53 Super Stallion. I also flew Blackhawks. I flew Marine One, which was a VH-3D. I flew Cobras. I flew Apaches with the Army. So I did a little bit of everything. Yeah, so I did about 5 years as a pilot of Marine One, which is the presidential helicopter. And the presidents that were there when I was there were President Reagan and President Bush Sr. So I did that for 5 years. We flew the presidents, we flew all the heads of state. So I flew Margaret Thatcher, I flew Lady Di and Prince Charles when they came to visit. So we got to fly pretty much every head of state. And wherever the president goes, Marine One goes, so I got to go all over the world with that.
Desert Shield, also known as the Gulf War, happened in August 1990 when Iraq invaded Kuwait. Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein believed that Kuwait should be a part of Iraq, and with oil fields in Kuwait, gave it a militaristic and economical advantage to Iraq's neighboring countries. On November 29, 1990, United Nations Security Council authorized the means of removing Hussein's forces out of Kuwait, giving Iraq till January 16, 1991 to leave Kuwait or start a war. On January 17, 1991, Bush ordered U.S. troops to attack Hussein's forces. This then turned into Operation Desert Storm.
In Desert Storm, and I think we talked a little bit about this, it was very dark in that country, and it was exacerbated by the fact that all these oil wells were burning and they were putting all this black smoke into the air. So at night, it made it like soup. I mean, literally, you're flying at night with no light in the country anyway because all the power was out, and the black smoke from the oil wells. So you really couldn't see very well at all, even with night vision goggles. And so I was flying a mission. We were moving some troops from one position to another position, and we had to stop and get fuel before we could get them to their final destination, which was near the Kuwait airport. And we couldn't find him because it was so dark, and we didn't have very good navigation, and we kept flying back and forth over enemy lines, and we didn't know where we were. So as the aircraft, I was not only the aircraft commander, I was the leader of the entire flight of 14 aircraft. So I was a little bit afraid we weren't going to find the guys we needed to find to pick them up, and also that I was going to run into something because it was so damn dark out there. So we finally found these guys, loaded them on the aircraft, and now we have to fly to what's called a FARP, a Forward Arming and Refueling Point. We called it Lonesome Dove. This is the call sign for that FARP. So we're trying to find Lonesome Dove, and same problem, right? Very dark, not very good navigation, can't see very well. And since I'm in the lead, I don't have a reference point. The people behind me could use me as a reference point, so they could look at my rotor tip lights and my position lights and things, and we had them turned to a frequency that you can only see with night vision goggles. But they at least had a reference on how far they could see into this darkness. I had nothing but black smoke and dark night in front of me, so I really couldn't tell if I was seeing 100 feet in front of me or 10 feet in front of me, and I'm going at about 150 miles an hour. So it was really very scary for me that I had all this responsibility of all these people and all these aircraft in mine and behind me, and trying to find this location, this Lonesome Dove. And so finally, we were flying, and I saw kind of a glowing in the darkness, and I figured, hey, this must be it, we're getting close. And we broke out of a little bit of a kind of a puff of smoke, if you will, and there right below us was the FARP. And it's a tiny place, it's not like a big giant air base, it was a small group of tents and stuff. And in order for me not to lose that reference point, I had to try and stop and not have everybody run into me. So I was telling everybody behind me to stop, slow down. I was going to slow down and stop over this location. And I was so frightened at that point that I was going to lose this reference point that I just said, I'm just going to land right here. And I came down lower and lower. I'd been about 200 feet. Now I'm down to 100 feet. Now I'm down to 50 feet. And my crew chief starts yelling at me because what the light was that I was landing on was another helicopter that was in the refueling. And I was going to land right on top of this other aircraft. And luckily my great crew chief stopped us from doing that. But mind you, we've got 12, 14 other aircraft all hovering around trying to find a location. So we ended up just sort of scattering and landing in fields all over the place. And that was, for me, that was my most scary moment. Well, I was in Desert Storm for that. We were there for about 9 months, so Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and the war. And then we stayed afterwards. There was another conflict after Desert Storm ended. The Kurds were being attacked by Iraqi forces, and we were there to prevent them from getting injured and hurt and stuff. So we stayed there another few months after Desert Storm ended. So in total, that was about 9 months. I feel good about being a survivor, and I say that not kiddingly, really. Many of my friends did not survive both our training and our careers or the conflicts, but I was very grateful to be able to get through all that in one piece. And the way I show that gratitude is that because I had so many of my friends, especially in aircraft, certain instances they passed away very suddenly. They took off and never came back, or they crashed and right in front of me, and I actually witnessed that. So what it made me realize is every morning when I get up, could be my last morning. I live by this philosophy. It's a song. Live every day like you think it's your last, because one day you're going to be right. And so I live every day to the fullest. I ride motorcycles. I drive fast cars. I try to get as much as I can out of every single day. Well, it's funny. You do more thinking before the battle than you do in the battle, and I say that. Before you get ready to go into a place where you're going to risk your life and you don't know what the outcome is going to be, you think a lot about your family. But during the conflict, your training takes over. You've been training for so many years to do a job. It's just like riding a bicycle, right? You don't think about, I got to put my left foot on this pedal, and you just get on the bike, you ride it. And that's actually what happens in military training. It's so intense and so complete that when you're in combat, all that training takes over. It's like playing, if any of you guys play sports, you practice plays, and in the game, when they say 32 dive, you know what that means. Everybody does, because you practice it so many times, and that's basically what happens for us. Elated. We were, I think I mentioned before that, before you go into combat, before you fly a mission is when you think of all these, fears you have of not seeing your family, things like that. During the battle, during the war, you're very busy and you're occupied with all that, everything you're doing. And when it's over, and it is over, meaning we're not going to be in harm's way anymore, it's a huge relief. You're relieved that all your friends are here and you're with them. You're relieved that you did your missions the way you were supposed to, and all your training paid off. And you're just grateful that you made it through.
Desert Storm was the first major crisis for America since the Cold War. Iraq had invaded the borders of Kuwait, who was one of America's leading oil suppliers. Since this posed an imminent threat to the U.S., they gave Iraq's dictator, Saddam Hussein, an ultimatum. With no response, on January 15, 1991, all troops that were involved in protecting Saudi Arabia and Desert Shield turned into Desert Storm. On February 24, 1991, the ground attack started, which only took 100 hours until Kuwait was liberated.
Well, so in Somalia, it was one giant quagmire, so it was always some sort of fighting going on. They didn't really necessarily name the battles per se. It was just every day was, people trying to shoot us out of the sky and us trying to complete our missions, move our fellow Marines around and the Army troops, and also provide supplies to all those units, and then to help assist what we call NGOs. NGOs are non-government organizations. That's actually why we were in Somalia, was to help them sort of keep the bad guys away from them so they could deliver aid to the people that were suffering from the famine. in Somalia. But it turned out, like a lot of things, when you get there, it's not really quite what you expect. And it was just a giant mess. It was just people, tribes shooting at each other, shooting at us, shooting back and trying to figure out who the good guys and the bad guys are. And I don't know if we ever got resolution on that. It was just one big firefight. Wow. I think one of my strongest memories in terms of just, it puts a smile on my face, is when I was in Somalia, and I'd been in Desert Storm before, and we'd been in some other conflicts, so I'd been away from my family quite a bit at that point. And it was Christmas, and we had just set up our camp, and all of us were, thinking of home and thinking about what you normally do at Christmas. And so somebody found an old shrub, there was not a lot of trees in part of Somalia we were in. So found a shrub and kind of set it up, and then we all got chem lights, and chem lights are just chemical lights. It seems you break them, and you can have light for a couple hours with them. And we hung them on this bush, and we all sat down and we sang a couple Christmas carols. And what I remember thinking was, yes, I miss my family and all that, but I was really very proud to serve my country and to be with my comrades, people that I loved, and that I knew loved me. And it was a very, obviously, meaningful hour. So the training, especially in the Marine Corps, it's true of actually of all the services, I think. The idea is they want to put you through what I would call a crucible. And a crucible is a hard challenge. They want you to earn the title. In the case of the Marine Corps, they want you to earn that title of Marine. And they never call you a Marine the whole time you're doing your training. That's a title you earn if you complete the training, if you're able to get through that. And that's kind of the psychology that they use to motivate you, right? When it's difficult and you want to quit and you think, hey, this is just too darn hard, you hear them talking to each other, calling each other Marines, and you think to yourself, I want to earn that title. I want to get through this. And so yes, it's challenging and it's difficult. Flight school was very difficult too, but it's all worth it. Be happy to. So my watch was a Father's Day gift on my first Father's Day, and once I got it, I never took it off. I wore it all through the rest of my Marine Corps career. So every mission at the White House, every combat mission, I always had this watch on. It was kind of my lucky charm, and I wore it until when I was in Somalia. I was in a firefight. I was in a Humvee, and I think I was telling the story to you guys that it was kind of a surreal moment because I had all these toys, like stuffed toys and little Nerf balls and stuff that my wife had been sending me because she thought we were like on this humanitarian mission. We'd be out handing kids toys and stuff instead of shooting at them every day. And so when we were driving down the road, I was in a Humvee and we had a convoy, and we got ambushed by a bunch of Somalians, and we were in a firefight and they had blocked the road, so we kind of had come to a bit of a halt that we get around this obstacle. And so I was firing my 9mm, and I realized I had all these toys here, and I looked and all these kids were running around. They were so desensitized to all this war that had been going on around there for so long that they didn't even seem to care that there was a firefight, and they were just kind of going about their daily lives. So I thought, oh good, I can get rid of these toys. So I started grabbing these toys and throwing them as hard as I could. At one point, I remember thinking, gosh, I'm probably shooting at their parents as I'm throwing toys to these same kids. It was kind of a weird moment. And then I went to grab another weapon, and I hit my watch, the face of it, on the center console of the Humvee, and I shattered the crystal. And so I just recently got it fixed because it literally sat in my drawer for, gosh, almost 30 years, I guess, since 1993, broken, and set at that same time in that firefight that I broke it. And so I used to pick it up every now and then, look at it and go, hey, at that time, that many years ago, I was not in Dana Point, California looking at the ocean. I was in a firefight in the middle of Africa.